Hey everyone, so we're looking at a small company called HireQuest today, and at first it might seem kind of ugly and you might not want to be part of it because it's in the daily labor hire staffing business, and that's notoriously a difficult business to be in. But if you dig a little bit deeper into this one, this is an exceptional business, and I will do my best to try to explain why, and we'll try to get toward evaluation at the end. But let me go over why I think, a quick pitch. Here we go. Let me hit you with that. So HireQuest is a growing franchise model staffing business in the States. Management appears very capable, long-term focused. They have a sound track record and they're highly invested. There's a long runway to grow into, and they're a serial acquirer. They're a high margin business with really lean operations. They've got return on invested capital of well above 20%. And when looking at them as a serial acquirer, the acquisitions that they've been making have been conservative at good multiples, somewhere between 4 and 7x, with mostly their free cash flow and a little debt as needed. Recently, they've also been growing very fast at 40% plus. Now, this we probably should assume comes back to earth a little bit, but it's definitely in the high growth category here. Their market cap's only about 300 million. They've got great free cash flow conversion, and there are competitors that are far bigger, but they don't do this lean franchise model like HireQuest. So there's a lot to really like about this business. I haven't talked about valuation yet. We're going to get to that in the last video. The industry risk that I'm going to talk about, but essentially I don't see it as a big problem because even though they're in a difficult space, they've been profitable for 20 plus years now, and they were even profitable in Q2 2020 when lockdowns were happening and it was the bottom part of the worst of the pandemic. They also pay a small dividend, which I'll explain a little bit later as well. But anyway, that's the high level pitch. So I hope that excites you enough to dig into this further with me. Now, before I jump into the details, if you don't have a brokerage account or you're looking for one or you have one and you want to get a second one, I recommend Interactive Brokers. It's the one that I use. The link in the description. I have demo videos here on this channel if you want me to step you through how to use it. It's pretty intuitive. So yeah, link in the description for that. Okay, now let's talk more about the business of HireQuest. So some jobs just need people. So think about if after a sporting match at a stadium, the stadium has to be cleaned. Now, someone has to go row by row and pick up all the trash, right? It just has to be done. And someone has to set up for an event like a marquee, like a tent marquee kind of thing, and put out all the chairs and set up for an event, or pull down an event, or I don't know, clear land getting ready for a construction site. You just need sometimes to throw people at a problem. There is not technology solutions that fix these things, like cleaning up a stadium. That is not a technologically solved problem. You just need to throw people at it. And it takes physical labor, and that's essentially what HireQuest are doing. They're finding enough manpower, enough people to throw at problems. So yeah, think about all those different little jobs that need to be done. The issue is though that the workers themselves, well, we're not talking about the highest quality people on planet Earth here that are working in these jobs. Think about the type of people that need cash, like daily cash, or they don't have a stable job that they need to go get daily work. So it's generally going to be lower socioeconomic kind of people here, generally speaking. But for an unskilled person, it's actually a pretty good place to get more experience and more skills and do lots of different things. Like most days aren't the same, which is interesting, at least for you're not working in a factory doing the same process every day. You're getting a bit of variety and you're probably picking up skills as you go. So I actually don't think it's that bad for an unskilled labor force. Now I have a little experience myself. When I was at university, I wanted a little bit of extra cash. I did some day laboring work like this. It was all right. Not the most interesting work in the world. I was actually setting up marquee tents. Yeah, pay was fine. It wasn't that dramatic of a deal. It's just a day's work. So yeah, I don't know. It wasn't that complicated from how I was seeing things as the person on the working side. I got paid and that's it. Went home with the money. Now turning this back to HireQuest, they operate this franchise model. So you can imagine a particular franchise in a city that looks for people to looks for all these workers and then finds the work for them to go out and do the daily work. These little businesses themselves, these specific franchises, they're not amazing businesses. They require quite a lot of hard work, a lot of management, a lot of micromanagement. A lot of things can go wrong with the unskilled labor force, and the profit of these franchises, that it's not amazing. It's really not that great of a business. But the reason why I like HireQuest as a potential investment here is because of, well, how it runs at like this head office level. See, the head office is a lean franchise model which has these strong, reliable revenues and a large market to expand into. Now, anyone can start up a labor hire staffing company. It's not really that the barriers to entry are low, but the moat is that you have to have this sort of local connection to source people and network with reliable clients, and time in the game actually plays quite a big part, and the relationships that you build do compound over time. So that is what I would consider as the moat. It's really hard to do this as a corporate, from a corporate head office point of view, hence why you kind of need to have these franchises out there. So because the business owners need to be as close to the source as possible. For other businesses trying to roll this up, the scaling of this has always been pretty hard. It just doesn't really scale that well when management get further away from the day-to-day operations. And HireQuest have solved this by going down the franchise path. I think it was really smart of them to do this. Okay, it's not a big moat, but I think it appears durable with those relationships that they've had to build. The franchises themselves are pretty tough to run, making it not that attractive for new entrants to come in anyway. Now, the benefit is for the franchisees is they do actually get a lot of the upside of their hard work. So if they're a good operator and find new clients for their business, they get all the upside. HireQuest get a reliable 6% royalty payment, and it's a win-win model, I think. The franchisees do get all the upside, which is cool. And in return for that 6%, HireQuest provide bulk services across the group, like workers' comp insurance, payroll software. They get bigger contracts as well. And I think they do a lot for just 6%. Now, let me go through a few nuances to the business. So HireQuest doesn't require any upfront franchise fee to start a franchise. Unlike McDonald's or Subway or any of the other franchise models that you might be familiar with, generally you have to pay $100,000, $200,000, $1 million, whatever it is in the franchise fee to become a franchise. HireQuest doesn't require that. Often they actually fund the startup, and then they have an earn-out arrangement with the franchisee moving forward, plus that 6, 7, potentially 8% royalty as a franchise fee. Now, this idea gives lower income earners who have shown that they know the business model well an opportunity to run a franchise. It's a bit of a grind, and it can make a big difference to that individual person, though, where they might have been just working in the office there, maybe managing the operations anyway, and have all the relationships, and they're making $50,000 a year. Well, if they become the owner of that franchise, they might make 100 plus 120, 150K a year. And although that's not amazingly attractive for the amount of work that they have to put in, for somebody who's making 50K and they're kind of unskilled, and that's quite a step up in their life to go from 50K to potentially 150K. So in saying that, head office do run the risk of the particular franchise falling apart, but they've done this hundreds of times now, and the CEO has 30 years experience in the industry. They have a really good system in place. They do close some of these franchises from time to time, and that's something to keep an eye on, because if the closing of franchises was to continue or maybe accelerate, then that could be a cause for concern in this investment. So there's something to watch out for. Now, a little bit of their history is that they became a public company through acquisition of a larger company called Command Center. Well, larger on a revenue basis, not on a profit basis, but this Command Center business, that wasn't a franchise staffing business. They were just a regular staffing business, sort of vertically integrated, and they've turned that into a franchise model immediately. So that was back in 2019, and the franchises that they turned Command Center into, they're actually about to finish paying off the amount owing to HireQuest. So this is going to unlock a lot of cash flow coming up for the franchisees, for them to either pay themselves more, which would be nice for them, or what is apparently likely is they're going to probably try to expand. They're going to want to have a second franchise for themselves so they can potentially make more money in the future. So they're about to get a bit more flush with cash, and I think there's an opportunity for them to expand further and keep building their own wealth. Now, I would explain this as some sort of roll up, then roll down serial acquirer. Let me kind of explain what I mean by that is HireQuest buy out these staffing businesses, which there are thousands of, by the way. There's a long runway for this. And then they find someone who already works there. Maybe it is the person who's already owning that business already, but if they're looking at retirement age, they find someone internally inside that business and partner with them, and they become the franchisee, turning the ownership back down to the ground level. So they sort of buy them up and then pass them back down again. And then they get their 6% royalty plus the earn out of the startup funding needed. And that essentially is how they run this business. That's why I called it a roll up, roll down. And this idea, I think, is where the power of this business comes from. It's a competitive advantage. This entrepreneurial owner that they have running the franchise is at the ground level. And without this, I wouldn't be even thinking about investing in this business. I just like that the incentives are completely aligned from a head office point of view and then the owners of the business point of view. I think it's a win-win for all. And talking about head office, that's a really lean way for them to grow and not get caught up in the operations. It's essentially fully decentralized. It is almost the ideal business model in my eyes and similar to the best decentralized serial acquirers, but I guess this is just the franchise version of that. Okay, so I think I've covered sort of the high level pitch here and you got a bit of an understanding of what's going on. The next episode, I'm going to go over some sort of the risks. And I think that's really important. I'm going to go through some of the financial metrics, some of the deals that they've done as well, and we're working towards evaluation. So stay tuned for those. I hope you're enjoying the analysis so far. This is really just a starting point for you to dig further. I need to make a shout out for a few people first. Aaron Idleheart, I'll put a link in description at Mindset Capital, has a really good write-up, and he's been really leading the idea, becoming more available to the public on this one. So he's done a lot of work here, and a big shout out to him. All right, well, I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.